Mr. Qureshi, we have been discussing few aspects of how you and your party wants to run Pakistan if inducted into power. But the subject that we are going to discuss today is a very disturbing subject from many viewpoints. Pakistan, there are now questions that whether Pakistan is economically viable or not even. Pakistan has been living beyond its means, much beyond its means. How do you see? Is Pakistan economically a viable state?
Well, I think you used the word. You said living beyond our means, and that is the reality. Unfortunately, the way it has been managed, Pakistan, people have been living beyond their means. There has not been sufficient creation of value, and that's the function of any economy. There has been destruction of value in many respects. And in terms of viability, the issue, as far as I'm concerned, is exactly what you said. It's a matter of living it's a matter of mismanagement and living beyond one's means. In terms of economic viability, I think Pakistan is a wonderfully sort of viable state. It is a state that has so many resources that one doesn't know where to start. And there are examples of states which have almost nothing in terms of natural resources, who have gone on to become very, very successful. So there is no excuse for Pakistan not to be successful or viable.
And you think that budget, despite rising defense expenses, despite the increasing amount of debt servicing, Pakistan can manage its budget today and tomorrow?
I think the issue has to be, you are talking about immediate problems that we are facing. What I'd like to look at and address really, the reason why what you are mentioning is not relevant is because it's been grossly mismanaged. And we have to assume that this management, the leadership really of the country, cannot continue because they are a complete failure. And I don't mean to include in that just the present government. I mean to include in it all the democratic governments, all non-democratic governments, all people who have been in government have mismanaged Pakistan and have not developed the economy the way it should have been possible and developed it to the extent of its potential. So the question in terms of today's budget and today's deficits, of course, if these same people go on running it, it will be run into the ground and someone will have to pick up the pieces. But assuming you can get good management, assuming you can get good people in there is nothing we can't do with this country and really take it to the front ranks of the countries in the world.
And you and your party has got a working plan ready to turn it around?
Yes, we do have a plan. Let me just say that the plan is not very difficult or complicated. The plan is not something that requires rocket scientists to come up from outside and develop and implement. The plan is really just good common sense, which unfortunately is not forthcoming from our leadership most of the times. It's common sense, it's honesty, it's making proper use of the resources that are available, and just using all this and once you apply just these 2 or 3 things to the economy, you'll immediately see a difference.
So you are convinced that Pakistan could be turned around?
I know Pakistan can be turned around. I'm absolutely convinced.
Let's get to the specifics. What is to be the vehicle of growth? In past we have it has to be either export oriented, or at times consumerism has worked as vehicle of growth. How do you see?
Well, I am not someone who believes in consumerism. Let's understand what an economy should try and do. What any economy should have as its basic objective. And it should be, in my opinion, is that the welfare of a country's people should be the priority of any economic policy, to make sure that there is no hunger, that people have the services that they expect from the state, such as water, such as power, such as healthcare, that they are educated, that they can live in security without fear, These are the, I think, the elements of a successful economy. Um, Having said that, you obviously have to have a strategy to deliver all this, and and the ability to deliver it depends on your economic successfulness. I mean, you have to generate the resources to provide all this, because none of this can be done without resources, and the resources have to be generated through the economy. So I'm, when someone says consumerism, export-led, that's. It can be any or all of these things. Basically, if you look at our economy structure, our natural strength is agriculture. We have wonderfully fertile land, we have a lot of water, and certainly that should be a starting point of where we look to develop our. It should allow us to be self-sufficient, for instance, in food. We should be absolutely self-sufficient. We by and large are. There are problems that happen, but I think that's a sector that needs to be looked at and developed carefully. The central weakness that I see now in our economy is the absolute collapse, if you will, of industry. And that's a sector that needs to be looked at very, very carefully. And that's where we will focus a lot of our attention, because if you do not have industrial power, you do not carry any weight in the community of nations, because you are. I mean, this is a world of technology, and where is the technology used? The technology is used in industry. It's generated there. It's put to use there, and if you are unable to harvest the benefit of technology through industry, you are missing out on what today is all about. So industry has to be promoted in a very, very structured and careful way, and that's what we are planning to do.